All right. It's your main man, Dr. Life in the business of saving lives. First responder, responding to unnatural, artificial, man-made disasters. So this is for the firstborn. This is for the firstborn. So I'm gonna say this again. I said this before, but I'm gonna say this again. My firstborn is connected to the covenant that Joshua had with God. My firstborn is Xavier. Our first fruit blessing. Overall first fruit, and then first fruit of mankind blessing. But Deja is also a first fruit blessing. But because she's a queen, she's our first fruit queen. He's our first fruit king. Destiny's our birthright queen. And Damon's our birthright king. Alright. So, this is my first fruit blessing king. And all of us have done the breath of life. And I was the first to do it. But I noticed with each one of our children, the breath of life is when someone passes away, ultra close to you. My cousin, my brother, Sean Coffey Robeson, passed away early, way too early. So then I received the breath of life of Sean Coffey Robeson. And with his older brother and with his grandmother and with his mother and with his father and with his family members and with our cousins, I took on the role of Sean Coffey Roberson. And there's a key person that has passed away when each one of us was either born or we had just come home from Oakwood University and Andrews University. And as soon as we come home to Trenton, Sean Coffey dies. Immediately, we leave Trenton in 1976, go to Oakwood. We there for 4 years in undergraduate. We leave Oakwood, we go to Andrews University. We there for 3 years in the graduate program. That's 7 years. And then when I come back to Trenton, and while we were in Andrews University, the older brother to Sean Coffey Robeson, Don Robeson, was sent to live with us because it was getting so crazy. But I guess the family decided it would have been too much to send both of them. But Don, since he was the oldest and getting into trouble faster, was sent to us while we was in the graduate school in Andrews University from 1980 to 1983. So like I say, And like I said before, this is the height of the crack epidemic. The war on drugs is the beginning of the crack era taking over our streets. And the war in our streets to control the turf to sell crack. 1983. And so that's what I come home to. And caught in between that war on drugs was my big bro, Sean Coffee Robeson. And a traumatic brain injury took his life. And I received the breath of life. And so with my son Xavier, my Brooklyn mother is Catherine Morgan. Catherine Morgan was my mother in every way, shape, or form. She was our first mother to die. Way too soon and way too early. And she was one of 4 mothers that had a dream for their sons to go into ministry that Oakwood University took away from all 4 of these mothers. Catherine Morgan, Mama Williams, Curtis Spiderloak Williams' mama, Hotep Musgrove's mama, Mama Musgrove, and Mama Howard, Don Howard's mother. And the thing that connected all of those mothers was my mother's desire for me to go to Pine Forge or Oakwood as well. So when these 4 brothers of mine were sitting in the theology department, but because they was too street, they all was told that the ministry wasn't for them. Each and every one of them. From a head in the theology department, and discouraged them to continue in theology and told them that they needed to change their major. And this was a systematic thing that was going on, because it's no coincidence that it happened to all 4 of my brothers. With no thought or concern for the mothers who have sacrificed all their life, and their whole dream was for that son to go into the ministry and serve. No thought of that. So then when Catherine Morgan passes away, even before that happens to her son, and then her son has his first child, and his first child is born, stillborn, not breathing, and we had to bury my godson and my nephew. We had to funeralize, or we had to memorialize, let me say that. And just like I did with Sean Coffee Robeson, I did with my firstborn in that situation. And we going back to do homecoming at Oakwood this weekend. And we got a new crop of grandbabies to those women that we have trained, that we have coached, that we have everything. And so I took a stand on my watch that I don't care who it was. They not going to influence. They not going to discourage. They not going to do anything to our babies when they go down there to them institutions. That's the stance I took because of what I saw that happened to Craig Morgan, Curtis Spiderloak Williams, Hotep, Amani Nuri Musgrove, and Don Howard. I'm not saying they're victims of anything. All I'm simply saying is the administration was looking at actively making sure that they approached individuals that they felt were not a good match for the ministry, and they were telling them to change their major. And all four of them went from theology students and changed their major because they were serious about what they were saying. So it's in that backdrop that my brother Craig has his firstborn and it passes away. And before that, we had just got married together on the same exact day. He with his first wife, Liz, and me with my only wife. We go get married together. And they start their family first, and tragedy strikes. And we start our family, and we dedicate ours to them. Hello. Speaking. I already called and told her that my wife called me and said she's getting off late, so I was going to have to come first thing in the morning at 9 o'clock, so they made me an appointment at 9. Yeah. Yep. All right. So Joshua is extra special. Okay? Joshua is extra special. And Joshua's covenant with God is extra special. Joshua was an upgrade to Zipporah. An upgrade. Physically in every single way. And when Joshua So before I go to the encounter with God, the backdrop is this. The adults in the generation who Moses represents, Moses died, and all of the adults that left Egypt died with Moses because they were the reason why Moses struck the rock twice out of his frustration, because their desire to go back into Egypt and go back into the sexual defilement in Egypt, which God opened up the ground and swallowed up 90,000 of them because they had Aaron fashion a golden calf. Yes, a mullet. No, we're finishing the what's in there. You can come make your plate. It's the spaghetti. It's still tons of that spaghetti from the other day. So the children of Israel come out through the Red Sea. God parts the Red Sea. Supernatural event. They walk through on dry ground. God prevents the Egyptians from following them. You know what? I'm not going to tell y'all nothing. I'm going to show y'all. God prevents the Egyptian army from coming behind them with a pillar of fire, another supernatural event. First supernatural event, he parts the Red Sea with the blast of his nostrils. While they're walking through, now it's millions of them. And he holds the Egyptians off the whole time, long enough for everybody to go across. Another supernatural event. Because the Red Sea, to cross all the way across, it's far. So this is really how ignorant it is to constantly be going
Hi,
back
we're
into
Charity Water.
Idolatry.
If we lost you at Charity, we get it. Give us a moment to change your mind.
Gather your families and your flocks. We must go with all speed.
Go where? To drown in the sea? How long will the fire hold Pharaoh back?
After this day, you shall see his chariots.
Mind you, God produces a supernatural event that nobody had ever seen before. And because they're so bent on going back into Egypt, they discredit every supernatural event that God did. How long can the fire hold? God just had a pillar of fire wide enough to prevent the whole army from advancing. A wall of fire out of nowhere. And holds Pharaoh off from attacking and killing them. But instead of them repenting of their wickedness and saying, yo, the God that's with Moses is the most high God that we gonna worship. Nah. This is literally how ignorant people are when it comes to worshiping Satan. Obviously, blatantly going against God, rebelling against God. God is obviously judging and punishing individuals for doing that which they're doing. Yet they're still bent on doing it anyway. That's called insanity. That's called insanity.
No more.
No! You'll be dead on the mountain.
The Lord of hosts will do battle for us. Behold his mighty hand.
All right, so we're going to fast forward. So, God parts this Red Sea. They go through on dry ground, right? And then what do they do when they get on the other side? God calls Moses up the mountain.
From the burning bush, O Lord, you charged me to bring the people to this holy mountain, to behold your glory and receive your law. What have I left undone?
So Moses is up on the mountain, interceding for the people, receiving the commandments. And what are the people doing?
They overlaid the image.
Huh? What are the people doing? This is Hollywood.
And they overlaid the image with pure gold. And Aaron fashioned it and smoothed it with the hammer,
This is the black
ready
church.
to be graven by cunning art and man's
This
device.
is the Catholic Church. In
And he
secret.
fastened it with nails, that it should not move. And he that smote the anvil did beat the molten gold into thin plates. For they had gathered their treasure into the midst of the furnace, and did blow the fire upon it to melt it. And they adorned themselves in rich apparel and costly array, with veils of blue and purple and scarlet,
Sound familiar?
and fine twined linen wrought in Egypt. And the women tread grapes from Midian into new wine.
Thou shalt not take the name of the
So this was a judgment event. All of y'all that talk about, yo, God is love and da-da-da. This was a judgment event. God judged them immediately. He opened up the ground and 90,000 of them perished right where they stood. This is immediately when they come out of sight of Egypt. Immediately. First thing they do. So because of this event, God said, y'all not going into the promised land. Y'all don't deserve the promised land. And all of y'all adults that wanted Egypt, y'all gonna die in the wilderness, and y'all never ever going. So he had them walk in a circle for 40 years. And every single adult that I believe was over the age of 12, they all perished in those 40 years. So you would think that the children would get the message and learn a lesson, right? You would think to not be in the category of being insane. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result from God. That's insanity. So for all of the children to see that not one adult that God allowed to survive and go in. Then when the children were on the banks of the Jordan River, the parents crossed through the Red Sea, and the children were on the banks of the Jordan River. And what happened? What happened? Let's go to my son's story and flesh this thing out. There is one overarching theme from cover to cover in the Bible, and that's sexual depravity, sexual defilement, and God's judgment of it. And whenever the people are not possessed by those unclean, unfamiliar spirits, there's prosperity on every side. The land flows with milk and honey. They're blessed by God, cherished by God. It's the one theme all from cover to cover in the Bible. Cover to cover. Holy Womb, the Heavenly Kingdom. Joshua, Michael Jordan's Angels. From wilderness failure to promised land authority. The core connection to the master theme. Joshua was chosen before he was even seen. And our message to all of y'all is, every last one of you was chosen before you were seen. In my mother's womb, you called me and you formed me to be a prophet. The only way you derail that is when you choose and you have desires and you choose to go against the divine order that God has already. I know the plan that I have for you, the plan to prosper you, give you hope in a future. The only way you don't get the plan that God has for you is if you allow unnatural, unfamiliar desires and then you choose them, you destroy the plan. There was already a plan in place, a perfect plan to give you a perfect life, filled with abundant life, filled with merry heart, filled with everything. There was already a plan in your mother's womb before he called you. And the only way you don't get it is when you come out and you choose and you have desires that are unnatural, artificial, and man-made and not God-made. Chosen before seen, God rides for you. The bridge statement. Joshua didn't become chosen when Moses died. He was already chosen. That's why he was by Moses' side the whole time. He was already chosen to be the replacement. He just had to walk like it when it was his turn. 4 worship thoughts today. I will not go back to what broke me. All of the parents died because they had a desire to go back to Egypt, and the Pharaoh in Egypt said, let us break and kill Joseph's people because they are a threat to us. Why would you want to go back to that which broke you? Egypt equals bondage, trafficking, false security. The wilderness generation. They were physically free, but mentally still enslaved. Sound familiar? Sound like a majority of the people, the masses. Physically, they could do whatever they want, but mentally, they choose to be slaves. From the sex therapy lens, trauma bonds cause people to crave what harmed them. All of the Egyptians were horrifically sexually traumatizing the Hebrews in their sun god worship system. That's what Egypt and Babylon do. And every member of the family was being abused in every way, shape, or form, sexually. And they developed a trauma bond with their captors and abusers, and they desired to go back to them instead of going with the God that set them free. That's called a trauma bond. When you crave what tried to devour you and destroy you. Worship focus. Breaking emotional and sexual return cycles. The focus of what Joshua was trying to do going into the promised land so that each tribe could inherit their lands. They had to get back in the covenant with God, and they had to break that cycle of returning to the sexual defilement that defined their whole existence in Egypt. The heavenly kingdom. I confirm my calling. I don't guess what my calling is. I confirm it. I confidently confirm that which God is doing in my life. That's confirmation. Joshua didn't assume leadership. He encountered heaven. So in Joshua 1, it says Joshua left the people on the one bank before they even crossed the Jordan. And he crossed over himself into the Jordan, into the promised land. And the text says that the angel of the Lord, they break it up so you won't know who they're talking about. Whenever you hear it say the Lord, it's the Lord of hosts. That's the Holy Spirit bride, the Lord of hosts. And the angel of the Lord of hosts is the archangel. Michael the archangel, covering cherub of the Lord of hosts. Michael covers the bride that sits on the throne, the Lord of hosts, Holy Spirit. So Joshua encountered Michael the archangel of the Lord of hosts. And Joshua, when he saw the angel of the Lord, he said, "Are you for me or for my enemies?" And the angel of the Lord responded, "Neither." Why? Because the Canaanite people were the descendants of Ham, and they had a blessing from their father Noah after the flood when they came out of the ark. And the Hebrews were the children of Shem, the middle son, and they had a covenant if they worshiped the God of Shem. If they were faithful and obedient to God's spiritual covenant, then they received a blessing from God. The women of Ham received the blessing of God to be the birthright, whether the men were faithful to God or not. The women of Ham, the Messiah was going to be born to the women of Ham no matter what. And then the men of Japheth's sons, inherited the ark and the craftsmanship and the workmanship of building the ark. And they inherited all of the lands that they sailed to, that was created when the flood created islands that did not exist before the flood happened. And because the first fruit blessing is the tangible wealth of the earth, starting with the land, then the sons of Japheth, no matter what, because he was the firstborn, they inherited the first fruit blessing. And so whenever you have a union between the sons of Japheth, the firstborn, or like I say all the time, the last Adam, and the daughters of Ham, who were the last Eve, whenever you have a union between those yes. He was outside smoking. I don't know. He might have walked around the corner or something. I don't know. You pulled up and you went out there? Yeah. I'll give him a minute. I'm sure he ain't gonna knock him back. All right. So the angel of the Lord said, "I ain't for neither. I'm for whichever one of y'all is obedient and enters into the covenant. So Joshua said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That's when he made that declaration. I cross over clean, restoration before possession. I cross over clean, restoration before possession. The Jordan crossing, spiritual rebirth. God restores the image of God before giving territory or inheritance. In the heavenly kingdom, power flows after purification. So what did the children need to be purified from? What did the children need to be purified from? I think she put it in the spaghetti. I think we might have finished them. You could make a griller and then chop it up.
Well, I was gonna put it in the spaghetti.
It'll become the crumbles.
Put it in a different spaghetti?
Huh? No, she put it in that spaghetti that's in the bowl. But we might have ate it all. You know what I'm saying? Because it's down to the last. So you could add a griller to what you about to eat and it'll, you know what I'm saying, bring it back. What do they need to be purified from? And y'all gotta understand when y'all hand down these generational curses as parents, when y'all engage in activities, you setting your children up to get derailed by the generational curse that you leaving behind because you choosing to lower your bar spiritually. So this is really a challenge for adults to raise the spiritual bars so that the kids don't get derailed. Because I showed you where the parents came out and they went straight to Baal worship, a orgy, to the golden calf. Now, mind you, this is the same golden calf that's at the New York Stock Exchange. Same golden calf. It's the same golden calf statue of the Chicago Bulls. It's the same golden calf. New York Stock Exchange. All over the country, they got these statues. All over the country. These bronze statues of these bulls. Numbers 31, 15 and 16. Have you allowed all of the women to live, he asked. They were the ones who followed Balaam's advice and enticed the Israelites to be unfaithful to the Lord. And they worshipped in the matter of Baal of Peor. And there was a plague amongst the congregation of the Lord's people. And so there was a plague that struck the people. I told you the Black Death during the Dark Ages. That was God's response because people have returned back to the same exact thing. God has been doing the same thing over and over, responding to the same issue in every age. Yet people keep doing it. Why? Insanity. Let's go further up in this text so y'all understand what happened. I'm telling you, there is a theme throughout the Bible. That ain't even the one. This is the one I was looking for. Moab seduces Israel. The Moabites are the descendants of Sodom and Gomorrah. Moab seduces Israel. While Israel was staying at Shittim, the men began to indulge in sexual immorality with Moabite women, who invited them to the sacrifice to their gods. And you gotta understand, in Sodom, men worshipped Ishtar. Men worshipped Asherah. And when they became the priest of Asherah, they changed their form into the goddess, and they presented and they did their prostitution in the temple as male shrine prostitute brides. Men who have changed to women. So just because it says the men slept with women, we talking about Moab. We talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. And we know what the priesthood of each of these gods, we know exactly what the priest did in leading the people into the worship. Moabite men, when they went to the temple to worship the goddess, they presented themselves as brides. And they did abominable acts according to the Lord. It's not according to me, according to the Lord. And watch how God reacts. Now, mind you, these are the children of the parents who all died. And now they're on the brink of going into the promised land and receiving their inheritance from God. That God told Noah that the children of Shem would inherit the Canaan land. So they're on the verge of getting blessed by God. And instead of preparing themselves for a life of righteousness to maintain the blessings of God, they allow themselves to be seduced by the Moabites. The Moabite women, who invited them to the sacrifice to their gods. That's a sexual offering. The people ate the sacrificial meat and bowed down before these gods. So Israel yoked themselves to the Baal, B-A-A-L. There's that word, Baal. Baal worship. Baal of Peor. And the Lord's anger burned against them immediately. And the Lord's anger burned against them. The Lord said to Moses, take all the Israelite leaders of these people, kill them, and expose them in broad daylight before the Lord, as the Lord's fierce anger may turn away from Israel. So Moses said to Israel's judges, each of you must put to death those in your tribe who have yoked themselves to the Baal of Peor, who have unified in a defiling act. When it says yoked to the Baal of Peor, it's talking about they unified in defiling acts. So this is what the children did just before going into the promised land. Their parents did this just after coming across the Red Sea, and before going through the Jordan, the children do it. So this is why God responded how he did. God is like, in the Canaan land, you got these people that keep going back, keep going back, keep going back. And in your people, you got people that keep going back and going back. So when you ask me, who am I for? I'm for whoever is for me and my covenant. So Joshua said, I don't know what these people gonna do, but as for me and my house, I'm making a covenant of righteousness, and me and my wife and my children, I'm speaking for every person that you've given to me. We all will serve you like you want to be served. That was the climate. The children repeating the same exact scenario that the parents had repeated. But Joshua's response is what set him apart, set his family apart. Joshua said, I don't care how many. No, listen, it might just be me and my family. And God allowed that man's commitment to bring down Jericho. That one commitment. Power flows after purification. So they went through that event, and God sent a plague through them and killed the individuals, and then had the judges go kill the other group of individuals, thousands. So then after that event, God said, y'all need to be purified. So he took them through the Jordan River to cleanse them and purify them. Jericho's victory was the first battle that happened after he cleansed them. There would have been no victory in Jericho if they had not have gotten cleansed. But the beautiful thing about God is, even though they were serial violators and serial Satan worshipers, God still kept. And this is when you can say the God that we serve is love. This is why you can say it. Not the way that y'all try and say it to justify living any type of way and like God will accept that. No. Thousands of individuals died and paid the price, and the rest of the people became repentant of continuing to spit in God's face. And they desired the purification. They desired a covenant with God. They desired to have the same covenant that Joshua did. And so God rewarded them with it, even though they had just chosen other gods. God ain't hold it against them. In that light, yes, God is love. God is merciful. But somehow, some way, y'all don't like to acknowledge that God would judge and destroy thousands of people for sexual immorality. But every time I go to the word, every chapter I go to, I'm showing you that God opens up, does a supernatural thing, and destroys individuals for sexual immorality. Yet people still keep playing with God. Because God stopped opening the ground, huh? Because God stopped sending the executioners in. So now y'all just out in the open, y'all just whatever. But the ultimate executioner is the lake of fire. So it just don't make sense. Obedience unlocks supernatural results. You heard? Power flows from purification. Jericho's victory came after they aligned themselves in the covenant like Joshua did. Obedience unlocks supernatural results. They were supernaturally able to defeat Jericho. Jericho were massive, massive giants towering over all of them. They shouldn't have been able to do nothing with the people of Jericho. It was a supernatural victory. Joshua, Michael Jordan's angel. Remember, God allowed them to step their feet in the Jordan River. His wife, Zipporah, Moses' ex-wife, became Joshua's wife. The only person who was righteous enough to upgrade her was Joshua. From trauma cycles to territorial authority, God gave them the whole Canaan land after they had just been seduced by the people of the Canaan land, but because they returned to the covenant when they went through the purification.
Here I come, Red. He's back. I got you. Got you. Yeah, we got there ain't no use. But you walk around the block? Yeah. I told him. You know where the house is. Uh-huh. That's cool.
From trauma cycles to territorial authority. Yo, if y'all don't get excited, man, this is saying God got a history and a track record of taking individuals that have been abused and traumatized in cycles of defilement and purifying and cleansing you and making a covenant with you and then giving you dominion back again. On earth. Not wait until you get to the king. Giving you dominion back, giving you wealth back, giving you gold, frankincense, myrrh, gems, diamonds, giving you the works of his hands. If you just align yourself with the same covenant that Joshua did, from trauma cycles to territorial authority. Some of y'all, that's all you've experienced all your life is trauma cycles. The woman at the well, nothing but trauma cycles over and over. The same repeat of the same man, the same relationship, the same defilement, the same prostitution, the same pimping, the same everything. And then when the master came to her and our whole nation was given territorial authority. This is what he does. And why you would accept anything other than dominion on earth as it is in heaven, it's insane to me. My son Xavier represents leadership, transition. The leadership from on one bank of the Jordan of being defiled and broken and judged to on the other bank having wealth, rulership, dominion, breaking generational cycles, walking in the confirmed image of God. Remember Joshua in Joshua 1, He's talking to the angel of the Lord of hosts. He's talking to Michael, the archangel of the Lord, the archangel husbandman of the Holy Spirit bride, who men are created in the image of. So Joshua, because of his covenant, chose to walk in the Canaan land as ruler in the image of God that he had taken back with his covenant. And I'm giving it to you like this so you could take back your covenant in the last days before God comes to judge the earth and take those in the covenant back to the kingdom. I'm giving it to you so you can do right now what Joshua did and get to the kingdom no matter what trauma cycle you were stuck in. As long as you got breath in your body, you can make a choice right now to enter into the same covenant that Joshua did and then receive the earthly territorial authority called dominion and rulership. And if you maintain the image of God till he come, he gonna reward you again and elevate you again in the kingdom. This is the Joshua generation, not survivors, conquerors. We didn't survive the wilderness. We conquered the wilderness and we conquer in Canaan. Point number 1, trauma cycles exposed. Free but still bound. Deuteronomy 25, which I read y'all. Yoked to the bale of Peor. Sexually, that's sexual immorality. After escaping Egypt, the people returned to sexual corruption. This parallels modern trafficking cycles. It's big business right now to kidnap and traffic. And I don't know how, as a society, y'all allow it to happen. Joshua didn't allow it to happen. Nobody that serves God allows those things to go on and go unpunished. The people return. After escaping Egypt, the people return. This parallels modern trafficking cycles. Victims returning to exploitative relationships. How many young people that ran away from home? Then got bound to a pimp and trafficked and just ran through the mud. And then somehow they get free and get back home and then they run away again to an even worse situation and a worse pimp and a worse trafficking. Over and over, it's the same cycle. Freedom without the image of God equals relapse. When you don't put back on the image of God that God gave you and you call yourself free, you're going to relapse. Marriage and sex therapy insight. Sexual trauma creates attachment confusion, pleasure, pain, entanglement. This explains why people revisit harmful environments. They left Egypt physically, but Egypt never left their desires. That's it right there. When you desire to be in bondage and have somebody have power over you and could do whatever they want to you at any time, you're guaranteed to be traumatized in every way, shape, or form. And when you choose to go back to that, that is what is a mental issue and problem. But God is showing you that people have always done this, and there is a solution. And Joshua presents the solution to the problem. Judgment and interruption. Some cycles must be broken, not managed. You can't reform some actions and activities. There's no managing. There's no value. There's no inherent value in any of the activities. So it's just meant to be broken. Not reformed, not managed, broken and destroyed totally. The severity of response shows how destructive sexual corruption was to the community. Phineas represents radical interruption of generational destruction. So Phineas was Aaron's son. And when God called the judges and told the judges, y'all need to, each one of y'all, police your tribe. And if you find anybody that in your tribe that participated, put them to death. And while they were saying this, one of the Levites was walking into his tent with one of the Moabite women. And they got in the tent and they got down to business. And Aaron's son Phineas took a spear, went in the tent behind them, and put the spear through both of them. And the moment that he did that, God stopped the plague that God had sent. And so what it's talking about is, it says Phineas represents radical interruption of the generational destruction. He put the individual to death that was blatantly, so God had already started judging the people. And so when the dude went and got the Moabite woman, he was saying, yo, forget God, yo. I don't care nothing about what God don't like it. You know what I'm saying? He was totally defined. God had already, the plague had already started. People was already dying. And he still goes in the presence of when Moses had called the judges together and said, forget God. So Phineas like, oh, word, forget God? And that was a radical interruption of generational destruction. The therapy parallel. Some behaviors require decisive boundaries, not gradual reduction. Some behaviors that are that destructive just need to be uprooted and destroyed and going in the opposite, a total 180, period. Not gradually, not none of that. And that's what Joshua's covenant was. And God gave him the power to honor it because it was the desire of his heart to honor it. And God says, I will give you the desires of your heart. So if you want to enter into a covenant of righteousness with God and you desire that above, you will get the power to fulfill the desire of your heart for God. The problem is our people don't desire what God desires. Even though God said, I know the plan that I have for you, people do not desire what God has for them. What you tolerate, you multiply. You tolerate engaging in and lowering the bar, you multiply and you compound the situation. Transition of leadership. When one generation falls, another must rise. So the parents fell. And if the children didn't change the desires of their heart and join Joshua in wanting the covenant, none of them would have entered into the Canaan land. The only difference was when God judged them, they saw the errors of their ways, and they had already saw an example of how Joshua was blessed because he entered into the covenant. And so they had a choice to make. Do we want to be as rebellious as our parents and never go into the kingdom? Or do we want to learn our lesson and abandon the rebellion? And they chose to do that. And so God blessed them. When one generation falls, another must rise. Entire wilderness generation died. Even Moses. Could deliverer? He could deliver, but not transition them. Moses, he was able to deliver them from Egypt, but could not transition them to righteousness and to the covenant of God like Joshua did. Moses could not transition them from desiring the Egyptian bondage to transition into a covenant with God. He couldn't do it. This reveals that deliverance and inheritance require different leadership mantles. What Moses couldn't do, Joshua did automatically. As soon as he heard the response of the angel of the Lord, he knew what he had to do. And he knew it was because of the constant desire to keep going back into Egypt and the constant keep getting judged by God and having to be punished by God. He knew what it meant, and he was like, I'm going to give God the covenant that God wants. The connection to our theme for the week. Chosen. Joshua was chosen before he was seen. You may not have started the journey, but you are assigned to finish it. It was Joshua who was assigned to lead them into the promised land. Heaven moved first. Then it was Joshua who caught up. Joshua and the angel encounter. Joshua needed assurance. As I was with Moses, I will be with you. That's what the angel of the Lord said to Joshua. He didn't step into leadership insecure. The moment that the angel of the Lord said that to him, Joshua knew that he could defeat Jericho. He could anything that he was commanded to do. After the angel of the Lord said, as I was with Moses, I will be with you. Joshua had ultimate confidence from that point forward. He aligned with heaven's voice. Heaven spoke to him and said, I will be with you. And he aligned himself with heaven's voice. The therapy parallel. The image of God healing requires external truth replacing internal distortion. What you have distorted internally, whether it's your belief systems, your faith, whatever distortion that you have accepted, that is a Holy Spirit violation because it's the Holy Spirit that lives on the inside. External truth replaces internal distortion. Formed, then favored. Not discovered and deployed. They discover y'all and then they recruit y'all for the military, then they deploy y'all. That didn't happen with Joshua. He was formed to be the leader that he was. He just had to walk into the favor that God had already placed on his life. Confidence comes when calling is confirmed. The angel of the Lord said, as I was with Moses, I will be with you. The angel of the Lord confirmed that Joshua had been called to lead. And so he had the ultimate confidence once the angel of the Lord said that to him. baptism before battle. The Jordan equals symbolic rebirth. They didn't fight first, they crossed first. God stopped the waters. Supernatural partnership. Sex therapy healing lens. Before intimacy is restored in the place where trauma has been, and some of y'all have not, you don't have to go through the physical trauma or somebody raping y'all or whatever. Some of y'all just keep going into terrible, horrible relationships. Some of y'all bar is so low on the desires of your heart and on the relationship tip that you keep getting the low bar desires of your heart, so your relationships are terrible. And then the psychological trauma and the emotional trauma and the sometimes sexual trauma when you're with the wrong person, you still ain't getting all of the negative trauma. Before intimacy is restored, the image of God must be cleansed, and shame must be removed. Guilt and shame is the number one thing that keeps people returning to Satan's bondage. They either think that they're not worthy, they either think, and over again, this is why God went and dealt with so many prostitutes, to be able to let y'all know you create and you're manufacturing that thinking on your own. That's not how God thinks. He went and set free so many prostitutes just so that he wouldn't have these issues with his people. Where you allow guilt and shame to keep you going back and steadily being defiled. Like the prodigal son, when he saw that he was in the pig's pen. Some people, they feel so guilty and so ashamed that they don't even attempt to go back home. They just give up and give in to the guilt and the shame. And they will die in that situation. And this is powerful. Myrrh before millions. So myrrh was always used, the oil of myrrh is always used to heal those who have been traumatized. And myrrh is a priceless substance. And this ties right into our couples massages and our makeovers and our medical esthetician licensing course in schools and universities, and it ties into everything because this is what we're doing it for. We know exactly the oils that were applied to erase trauma. We know exactly how things like frankincense and all of these things were used in a worship experience to heal and make people whole again after being traumatized. Myrrh before millions. God will cleanse what he plans to empower. Have mercy. God will cleanse what he plans to empower. Power comes after alignment with the covenant. No conventional warfare, just obedience. Higher than man's human thoughts is God's ideal for his children. So when God has an idea of how he's going to set you free from, he's not going to use the traditional conventional ways so that his children won't be able to take credit. Just obedience, not conventional warfare. Jericho, there's nothing conventional about Jericho. Jericho represents strongholds, trauma walls. generational barriers. Victory was not earned, it was activated. Favor builds palaces. Own the crown. When you align, walls will fall without force. Trauma, walls of trauma that have been set up against you, strongholds. When you align yourself in the covenant with God like Joshua did, the walls will fall down without any force at all. My son Xavier's prophetic identity. The Joshua generation. Xavier represents the one who finishes what others couldn't. Xavier represents the one who doesn't return to bondage. Xavier represents the one who leads people into healing and authority. He is a deliverer of restoration cycles. That's what Xavier is. You are not the one who escaped. You are the one who establishes. See, Moses was the one who escaped through the desert to find his bride. It says you are not the one who escaped. You are the one who establishes. He established each tribe in the lands. He established their inheritance, and their covenant with God was going to cause the land to flow with milk and honey, and it did. Application therapy in the family. Break the cycle. Lead the crossover. In marriage, don't bring Egypt into the covenant. Don't bring Egypt into your covenant. In the family, heal patterns before passing them down. Heal patterns and never pass them down is what it should say. Restore the image of God. Then restore intimacy. Restore the image of the Holy Spirit image of God's bride in your bride, and then become intimate with her. And then worship. In leadership, help others to cross, not just to cope with trauma. Help others to cross, not just cope with trauma. Y'all gonna repeat after me. I am Joshua, I cross over. Once again, I am Joshua, I cross over. When I say the call, you say the response. I will not go back, and you say, I move forward. When I say I will not go back, you say, I move forward. Let's do it. I will not go back. 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 When I say I am chosen, you say before I was seen. I am chosen. I am chosen. I am chosen, and I am chosen. I am restored before I reign. I am restored, you say, before I reign. I am restored before I reign. I am restored. There you go. I am aligned, so walls fall. Aligned means I am in the covenant with God, so walls fall. I am in the everlasting, in the beginning covenant with God, so walls fall. Chosen before seen, God of heaven rides for you. Heaven moved before Joshua led. Heaven confirmed before he conquered. Heaven restored before he gave victory. You're not trying to become Joshua. You're stepping into what heaven has already decided, my son. And all of you young people that are just like my son. You're not trying to become Joshua. You're stepping into what heaven has already decided in your mother's womb. And that's it. Go conquer, my son.